everybody. My name is John Phillips. I'm the Executive Director of the New York League of Humane Voters. We're a nonprofit animal welfare organization that works to pass animal protection laws, elect humane candidates to office, educate the public on matters of public policy, and hold politicians accountable to their constituents. We're here today because less than 12 hours ago, elephants were marched through the Midtown Tunnel, past department stores and fast food chains, and they're currently being chained inside of Madison Square Garden. These animals, like the elephants that are chained, are not meant to be kept inside of Madison Square Garden. Madison Square Garden is a venue for rock stars and sports teams. It's not an elephant sanctuary. It's not a zoo. This is not a natural habitat for elephants or tigers or bears. In fact, the Bronx Zoo, which is a premier facility in the world for elephants and other animals, recently decided that they're phasing out their elephant exhibit because they can't accommodate for the social or physical needs of the animals. We argue that if the Bronx Zoo can't accommodate for the needs of elephants, there's no way that Madison Square Garden can. These animals travel 50 weeks out of the year in boxcars and trailers. They're chained 90% of the time when they're not performing. These animals are on for 8 minutes when the show goes on. These animals live lives of torment and misery for 8 minutes of entertainment during each show. Elephants are trained with this. This is a bullhook. They hit them in sensitive areas of their body, like under their trunk, behind their ears, on their legs, anywhere that will shock and hurt them. I'm sure you won't be surprised to learn that elephants are not born with a burning desire to perform. These animals don't wake up in the morning and dream of being a star on Broadway. These animals would much rather travel 30 miles a day in Asia and Africa than be inside of Madison Square Garden. The only reason elephants and other wild animals perform the tricks that they do in the circus is because they're tortured and forced to perform. They're terrified of what's going to happen to them if they don't perform the tricks that Ringling makes them perform. Luckily, there's a solution, and that solution is Intro 389. Intro 389 is sponsored by Councilmember Rosie Mendez of Manhattan, and thankfully that legislation is gaining a lot of steam. The legislation would ban the use of all wild animals in the circus. So we're talking about elephants and tigers and bears, all of the animals that are used in the circus, except for domesticated animals, which would be exempt. As I said, this legislation is picking up steam. We've gone from 5 sponsors when we introduced the bill to 12 last year, and now we have 23 sponsors, nearly a majority of the 51-member council. This is no small feat. The city council, nearly a majority of the city council, is saying now today that elephants and other wild animals should not be used in the circus. So it's time for New York City to join the 21st century and stop using elephants in the circus. We're calling on the City Council today to pass Intro 389 and make this part of the history books. I'll be happy to take any questions, but first I'd like to introduce Yetta Kurland, who is a candidate for City Council in the 3rd Council District, which includes Madison Square Garden. Yetta.
I want to start by thanking this elephant right here. John Phillips from the League of Humane Voters for helping us bring attention to this important issue. I think as John touched on briefly, the treatment that elephants receive in the Ringling Brothers Circus is far from humane, and I think something that all New Yorkers feel strongly shouldn't happen. I want to talk about a couple of other things. First of all, as a New Yorker and as a candidate for City Council here in the 3rd District, I love performances, I love celebrations. We are the theater district, we are Broadway, we are the arts district, the gallery district. performances and expressions of creativity are something I very much embrace. However, elephants have no place for that in Madison Square Garden. As Jonathan touched on, they only perform for 8 minutes. 95% of their existence is in chains, inhumanely treated and kept warehoused and in other places that just aren't fit for elephants. Also, elephants don't need jobs. They don't want to be treated inhumanely, and they don't need a job even for 8 minutes of performance. Guess who do need jobs? Human beings need jobs. Men and women in New York City and throughout the country are facing a recession and very difficult times. And I call on Ringling Brothers to create a cruelty-free circus. Think of all the creative things we could do with the Ringling Brothers circus. We could employ trapeze artists and jugglers and tightrope walkers and acrobats and yes, maybe even some pantomimes. We don't need to employ elephants. And another thing, rather than creating jobs for human beings, we are creating excessive costs and public safety concerns as we have to herald these elephants through tunnels and shut down traffic and employ the New York Police Department and other agencies of the city of New York. Rather than increasing costs, why don't we decrease costs and increase jobs for human beings? So I call on Ringling Brothers today to do 2 mitzvahs. One is to stop the inhumane treatment of elephants and other animals in the circus, and 2 is to create living wage jobs for our men and women here in New York and throughout our country to help fight the recession and the difficult times that we face today. I'm going to work with Rosie Mendez with the League of Humane Voters as an upcoming City Council candidate and a City Council member to pass Intro 389 to make sure that this happens. And thank you all for coming out in the freezing cold to support this important issue. Thank you.
I want to thank Yetta for coming out today. Yetta and her campaign are really leading the way and putting this issue on the agenda for candidates and lawmakers. I want to just briefly acknowledge that we've been joined by Ken Bayer, who's a city council candidate in Brooklyn, and John Hines, who's a vet in Staten Island. And I want to introduce Bob. Bob is our what is Bob? Bob is our metaphor for what he's our elephant ambassador, and he's the future, we think, of entertainment, where humans voluntarily perform and elephants are not tortured and transported around the country.